Valorant, in essence, is a team game, but there are lots of moments where we can find ourselves in a skirmish or duel. When we die, it feels terrible. We lost whatever control of an area we were at. Teammates hate us, score got worse, and our impact and influence further into the round is gone and we have to wait for next time. But this negative stuff is also true for the enemy if we win and get the kill. I don't need to tell you that in each round, any kill that comes through can potentially be the deciding factor or tipping point, so ideally we need to win our duels. Winning duels in general is awesome. It's fun, feels great, it's why we play. Besides, what better teammate could you be than the top-ranking Giga Chad carry from winning all your fights? So today, let's talk about how to win more duels in Valorant. First things first, aim. Now, we're gonna assume you have a decent handle on your aim and not really focus on this too much, as it's near impossible to give you impactful and immediate advice to improve your aim, and I'm nowhere near the craziest aimer anyway, but I will give a couple of tips. When aiming, make sure you actually aim the cursor before taking a shot. You want to take that extra tiny bit of time to make sure you're on point, and it kind of seeps into your subconscious, and it'll be a great habit to develop, but you're likely gonna have to refresh your aim every day. Don't shoot before aiming, as it's basically warning shots and whiffing, and while it could create pressure on the enemy, if they're actually aiming in this time, you'll likely die before your shot is correctly adjusted. When moving around in the world, do a lot of pre-aiming. This is basically crosshair placement, but every corner you should be paying mind to where you're staring at all times, especially if there's about to be a fight soon. For example, if you get a sound cue that they're about to be running across the corner that you're holding, expect to hold wider. If they're walking or jiggling, they'll be making no sound cues, so you can expect to hold tighter. That's only one example of using sound cues to help you where to aim. You can also use your radar, your teammate's vision, which is also radar, and sound cues behind smokes, behind walls, etc. to help you anticipate where you want to pre-aim, so by the time that you swing, all you have to do is shoot and the enemy will not be quick enough to respond. I will say that the most important thing with aim is basically your mouse control. Pay attention to which body parts you use when you're on fire or in the zone, but ideally you should be incorporating a little bit of almost everything, barring any extremely low or high senses. That is the fingertips, hands, wrist, forearm, elbow, and shoulder, which is also affected by your posture and how you sit. When people say get comfortable for your aim, they don't mean for you to be like able to fall asleep in your chair. You just want a good posture that isn't killing you and a nice form to be able to move the mouse how you want to. Aim trainers can help expedite your aiming progress, and I would recommend it if there's anyone interested, although I don't do it myself, and I did try it a long time ago and I did see improvement, and I learned some things about myself and how I aim personally. Moving on from aim, next up we have movement. Now, movement is extremely important as well. It also is directly tied to your aim a lot of the time, so they work in tandem. Good movement can help you towards good aim. Now we can talk about positioning and scaling, which route you take when attacking, but for now let's just focus directly on movement in combat. Remember, you gotta be doing a lot of pre-aiming, so when you factor your movement into the equation, by the time you swing on the guy, all you gotta do is shoot, and the better your accuracy in your pre-aims are, the easier the follow-ups will be, and you will be rewarded and take notice of the easy kills you get. The most important piece of movement to practice is going to be learning how to strafe shoot. Now, while crouch spraying is definitely a valid and strong move, defaulting to this for every encounter, especially far range, is not the play. That's where strafe shooting comes in. Most of you will already know how to do this and hopefully apply it in your real games. It's just this simple moving side to side, stopping, getting your shots in, and then moving again. You can even do it silently, which I called the silent step in my older video, and this is the version that you should be aiming to use to not give enemy sound cues and to clear angles with speed instead of limping into them. This makes your character harder to hit and gives you time to line up your shots. Now that second part is important. You still have to be aiming. Here's a warning. Don't fall into the lull of going autopilot when taking fights, and both of you are strafe shooting. You still gotta be aiming constantly. When two people fight in Valorant, usually it's kind of like a dance. You move, you aim, you stop, you shoot, and then you move again. Your partner will do the same. But this dance is over so quick, so don't fall asleep and be the one who ends it faster. In this dance, you will usually only get like 0 to 2 chances most of the time. The higher ranks you go up, the lower chances you'll seem to get. When you swing, aim, shoot, that's one chance. If they're not dead, you move again, aim, shoot, that's your second chance. Usually you kill them by now or they killed you. So while it is a dance and you do want to get into a rhythm, don't get entranced into it and go autopilot, and keep aiming until you know for sure your crosshair is lined up, and then click easy dance over. So now that we got strafe shooting out of the way, recognize that as your bread and butter. You're going to be doing it forever. Get comfortable with it, get good at it, and you're going to be a menace. Now, let's talk a little bit about swings. Basically, you got white swing and and an exaggerated version of poppet swing. Swings are good if the enemy whiffs, as they'll a lot of the times have difficulty stopping or resetting in time. But a lot of times, if you feel like when you swing you get instantly laid out, it was probably too easy looking on the enemy screen. When you swing, if you want to appear faster, you should be closer up to the angle. If you're playing further back, just realize that you are slower than your potential and you could be an easier target. Or you're playing for angle advantage to try to see them first, allowing you to react just slightly quicker over your enemy. Just be sure that the enemy is where you think they are before trying this, as you're going to be staring at a wall right before swinging, and if someone is inching up on you, because of angle advantage, you won't be able to see them sometimes. This also happens with jump spotting. Another piece of movement tech, along with simply jiggling or shoulder peeking. I'm not going to tell you there's only one right way to jump spot or anything, but just make sure you're getting a lot of speed while doing this and to not be going out so wide. Your goal in this is to get info or bait a shot, not to be soaking bullets. How I like to do it is to jump forward and air strafe rather than backwards, as it's easier and more intuitive with the movement inputs. It can be done while going backwards, but it's easier to mess up and be slow. Anyway, jump spotting or jiggling before committing an engagement can help it go in your favor if you can get that little bit of extra info to exactly pinpoint where the enemy is with your pre-aim. Next up, let's talk about anticipation. So this is kind of tying in everything together that we talked about earlier. If you can anticipate an enemy's movement and even predict their next move, you'll have so much of an easier time landing a kill on them. Of course, it's easier said than done, but use all of the information given to you in the heat of the moment. Listening for footsteps of enemies indicate they're about to swing out from cover, so adjust your crosshair and pre-aim accordingly. The better you do that, the easier it'll be to land shots and kills. When you swing out and get instantly laid out, the footsteps you gave off are giving your enemy a mental picture of when you're about to appear on their screen. This is also why not giving sound cues is important and the silent step is so effective. Anticipation is needed before, during, and after fights. Before, you gotta make your preparations on how you're about to engage. During is predicting enemy movements or positions and capitalizing. After is where the next likely targets will jump out of or try to trade from, or whatever crossfire they have set up. You also gotta take into account which agent you're facing and keep in mind all of their moves like a fighting game. But for most of them, you don't need to worry too much except for like flashes, scans, etc. But just never forget what the enemies are capable of and try to read into the future on what they're wanting to do. The better your anticipation on their possible moves, this is basically having high awareness, so just keep exercising this and let nothing be a surprise to you. The less you get caught off guard, the better for you and the more limited your enemy's options. The last bit of advice is don't always fight. Seriously, the amount of rounds lost because someone gets one or two, then overheats and repeaks for more is too damn high. Make sure the fights you're taking are worth it, unless your team is in desperate need of a playmaker at that moment. You gotta ask yourself, given the context of what you're holding or guarding, do I need to take this fight? Do I need to kick back? Does me fighting here right now benefit us? Is it worth the risk? If I get this kill, should I go for more or fall back? These are all very quick decisions that will eventually become second nature, but you gotta train yourself into winning ways and turn them into habits. Conversely, I also want to bring up the people who have the opposite of this problem. Fight more. Don't always be the guys in the back just holding a singular angle while a couple of teammates are scaling up, or the guys on defense holding from way too far back too passively every round. It is good to have someone holding, but most times if people are a little timid to fight, it ends up being like 3 people who all want to stay back and no one's scaling, no one's trading or fighting. Don't worry about setting up post plant. You gotta make sure you can secure the plant in the first place and fight. Again, ask ourselves, do I need to take this fight? But instead of asking so we can kick back, we charge forward if the answer is yes, to helping our teammates, to opening up the round for your team, or bursting through a choke, or clutching a 1vx.
See? You gotta swing right.